DeLuca here. All right, going to continue using up these paints that I mixed up. It is the DecoArt Satin Enamel, DecoArt Americana Decor Satin Enamel. I have pure white, which I have added to these 6 colors. Those colors are Amsterdam Standard Series Permanent Blue Violet. That is actually the purple here. The yellow is Liquitex Basics Cadmium Yellow Deep Hue. The blue is Phthalo Blue from Liquitex Basics. The orange is a mixture of the Cadmium Yellow Deep Hue and the Cadmium Red Medium Hue. The green is the Phthalo Green, and I don't have it here, but this is the Quinacridone Magenta. So these paints are mixed, half the color paint and half the satin enamel. And then I add Floetrol to that, 2 parts Floetrol to 1 part paint. So if I did 1 ounce of colored paint, 1 ounce of the satin enamel, that gives me 2 ounces. So then I do 2 parts Floetrol. So then it would be 4 ounces of Floetrol to these 2 ounces of paint. And then I thin with water until I get the consistency that I am looking for, which is, this is about a 2 on my consistency scale. It is making a mound, but it disappears quickly. And it's making a nice thin, even stream off of my stick. If it's getting thick and then thin and thick again, you need to keep mixing because your consistency is inconsistent. The last color that I have here, which is going to be my background slash base coat color, that is Amsterdam Standard Series in Caput Mortem Violet. So it's kind of a deep magenta, maroon wine kind of color. And I think it's a really pretty color, and I've had some really good results using that in straight pours. So that's the color we're going with today. We're going to do a spiral straight pour using the cloud recipe, the adjusted cloud recipe, because I'm adding colors to it. It's not just white. Before we get started, have you seen the FluidArt inspiration cards? If you have, you can fast forward about a minute, but if you have not, what we have are 52 cards. There are 42 technique cards, and each technique card has an associated video here on YouTube that gives you the exact paint brand, color, consistency, recipe, technique, all the things that I can't fit onto 1 card. This is a picture of the painting in that video. This box contains a tip for this particular technique, and here at the bottom you have the color palette that was used in this painting. These 2 boxes can be used as the basis of a 2-color palette. You can build off of those colors or just use those 2 colors. There are also 8 bonus color palette cards. Each one has 5 color palettes. You can use all of the colors or just some of the colors, mix and match the bonus color palette cards with the technique cards, and you have more combinations than you could ever paint in a lifetime. These are available at my website, ginadeluca.net, and also at amazon.com. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is put some paint in my cup. This is going to be my background slash base coat color. Touch more. And then I will lay down my base coat. You'll notice I've already covered the edges. The mix that I have is very thin, and I'm using Floetrol. That does not typically give you the best coverage on the sides, but also because this is round, the sides has some plating on it, little puckers in the canvas. And if you don't cover them first, they're really difficult. I see a hair. They are really difficult to get rid of, or I'm sorry, to cover with just your poured base coat. Going to pop some of these bubbles, pull out old Bernie 2 times. He never likes the first try. There will be bubbles in the base coat. That is why I use a color for my base coat that is in my pour. If I have no white in my pour and I use a white base coat and I get little teeny tiny white cells popping up through the base coat, the bubbles bring the paint with it. And in a straight pour, that actually works to your benefit because it's bringing up those hydrophobic paints. But when it's your base coat, it's not going to have that reaction, and you're going to get little teeny tiny cells, little pinhead size cells, which really I find super annoying. So I try to avoid that happening if possible. Let's put some paint in a cup, shall we? All right, going to start with the green. I have a lot of colors here, so I have to be careful not to use too much of any one color. And let's see. So I like for the color that has the most contrast to go into my cup last, because that is typically going to go, some of that will end up at the bottom of my cup, and that means it will come out last, and it's going to give me the best contrast in the very center, which will be the focal point. Alrighty. I'm not seeing a whole lot of reaction going on here. These paints were mixed up a couple weeks ago, so hopefully this works out. All right, I see some cells popping up. That's a good thing. That's what we're looking for. So I am going to pour in the center as much as I can make it the center, spinning the canvas slowly. I want this to look like a spiral, not like a ring pour. Trying to stay in the middle as much as possible. That is probably one of the most challenging parts of this particular technique. Staying in the middle and getting your spin rate where you want it. As I get towards the end of the cup, here comes the yellow, yay. As I get towards the end of the cup, I get closer to the canvas and I spin more slowly, because again, we want a spiral, not a ring pour. And once I get to that contrast color, I aim for 1.5 turns. That's the Fibonacci sequence, you know, 1 to 1.5. Whew, okay, I can breathe. All right, now this canvas has been leveled to the table, but the spinner is slightly not level. So what is most important here is that my center is in the center. Yes, this is leaning more this way and this is going to tilt off the edge before this side does. That's okay. As long as this stays in the center, I will be happy. But also what we can do is just push this side a little bit more towards the edge, and like on those merry-go-rounds on the playground, whatever is closest to the edge as it is spinning, the centrifugal force will pull that side more. So I can get this side to pull a little harder. But again, most important that the center is in the center. So I know it looks like not much is going to happen in here. This is going to fill up with cells, just like this part is. The more it stretches, the more cells are going to come through. But also, as I let it sit, that paint puddle is going to percolate, and those cells will develop, and then when I do spin, those cells will just get bigger. So the more patient you are at this stage, the better outcome you are going to have with your cells. If you want big boulder cells, then you have to wait for them to develop before you spin. Now, if I were to spin this right now, I would still absolutely, this will fill up with cells, but I want those big, juicy, 3D looking cells that I get, and they look more 3D when you give them a good stretch. So what is likely going to happen is everything outside of this is going to get spun off. And then these cells are going to get very stretched and they're going to look very cool. This cell right here is looking like a bullseye kind of thing. That is neat. Got some groovy looking cells in here. But all of this is definitely getting spun off. Sadly, a lot of that will too. But that's what it's going to take, because you can't just leave all this paint on here. A, it will take forever to dry, but B, you run the risk of it cracking. We don't want that. Being patient here is super, super important. If you have a difficult time being patient and just letting, the cells develop, walk away. Walk away and come back. Set a timer. Set it for 5 minutes, 7 minutes. Do 5 minutes and check on it and hit the snooze button. If necessary. But if you want boulder cells, being patient right now is super important. And I know a lot of people probably fast forward through this part, and that's okay. But I find that it is important for you to see just how long I'm letting this develop. So I don't cut this part, because I feel like a lot of times when things are sped up, it gives a very skewed perspective of how long something takes. And you really want to, if you want that result, if you want big juicy boulder cells, you're gonna have to be patient. And even if I just wait for some of them to develop, the rest will fill in, but I still want some of those big juicy cells. Oh, it's gonna be sad to lose this. This is really pretty here. So one of the reasons why I use the same color base coat as I do background color, if I were doing this on like a square or a rectangle or something, and I loved what was happening here and I didn't want to lose that, I could leave some negative space. I could just pour off more to one side and give this a nice big stretch and, you know, keep that edge. So using the same color for your base coat as, you know, another painting or paint in your pour is going to be really helpful. It's going to give you more options when it comes to your composition. And it's going to give you less things to possibly have to touch up later. Another good reason to paint your edges first so that you don't have to touch that up later. That is quite the pain in the butt. Especially if you're doing custom blended colors, it's hard to get that exact color. And it's just more work. And I like to troubleshoot before there's trouble. All right. I could let this sit a bit longer. I could. Perhaps I should. But I think I'm gonna give it a go. I've got some cool cells here that I think are going to be really pretty once they're stretched out. Let me make sure that my metal's in the middle. So you do not have to spin fast. A lot of people say, how is your canvas attached? A lot of times it's not attached at all. This time I just have the cup hooks taped with some paint tape to the shower cap that is covering the spinner. If I were spinning at this rate, I wouldn't even really need the tape. I just put it on there so it doesn't accidentally pop off when I'm trying to push it to one side or another. It's just a little insurance policy. But you do not need to spin fast. If you have ever had a painting while it is drying overnight, it is not level, and then it's kind of all pulled off one side, you know how much paint can move over time while it is still wet. So you can spin it very slowly and it is still going to get there. There is no need for it to spin past, you know, very much past your spinner. It's when I have a square canvas on here, the drips never go past the corner of the canvas. Oh, right. How much more do I want to spin this? I think I'm going to push it this way a little bit. And those tiny little adjustments really do have an effect. When people look at this art form and they say it's easy, it's only because they haven't actually tried it to know just how these smallest things can have major effects on the outcome. These cells are super cool. they kind of are all very similar, where they look like ripples, rainbow ripples. Perhaps that will be the title of this one. Got a nice Nautilus effect going there. Digging on that. Okay, I probably could spin a lot more of this off, but I really like this composition, and I am hesitant to spin off more. Let's see, how much does this move? Oh, okay, we're okay. I think we're okay. What I did there is tilted it to see if there was still a shift in the paint when I tilted it. If your paint, the weight of your paint is going to push your paint around when you're tilting. And if it doesn't have a significant amount of tilt to it, you might have tilted off enough. So I think I'm going to leave this be, and I will bring you in for a close-up back in a few. Okay, here it is. I am very happy with how this turned out. I love how these colors have blended together. It's looking a little darker on my camera than it is in person. But I've got some really cool cells. They look very ripply. Oh, that's like an eyeball right there. And some of these cells just glow. Oh, the cool ones there. Very happy with this piece. And that background color, that magenta, or the Caput Mortem, which is really a very deep magenta, is looking really gorgeous against those colors. You can see the edges have already started to dry. But that is how these paintings dry. Yeah, super, super happy with how this one came out. The spiral is like perfection. Love when that happens. It does not always happen. But there it is. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do like, share, and subscribe. If you are subscribed, please make sure you click that bell. I've had so many people tell me that they have not been seeing the videos I've posted, and then they came to look to see where I've been, if I'm okay, only to be surprised that I've been posting, and it's not being shown to my subscribers. I have 165,000 subscribers. I am barely getting 1,000 views, and like 3% of the views that I'm getting are from subscribers, and that's just really bizarre. So please do click that bell and select notify all, and do check out the description box below for links to my PayPal tip jar if you feel so inclined. Always appreciate it, but certainly not expect it. And you will find affiliate links and coupon codes there, DecoArt being one of them, where you can find the satin enamel paints that created this very cool effect. Just the pure white paint, add it to those other paints. Give all of these cells with no silicone. And again, there's coupon codes there, and if you use those links, I receive a small commission at no additional cost to you, but it does help me out. Fluid Art Company is another affiliate. That is where I get my Amsterdam paints, and of course the piggies. I just love the glow that is happening in these cells. Super cool. Also in the description box, you will find the link to my website, ginadeluca.net, where you can find my art and music and the Fluid Art inspiration cards for sale. And of course, the cards are also available on Amazon. You will also find the link to our Facebook group. Go make some art. Join us there. Post your masterpieces. Ask your questions. Get some inspiration. A good time is had by most. It is the internet after all. I think that's it. I usually forget something, but I think that's it. All right, y'all. That is it for me for today. I hope y'all have a beautiful day. Now go make some art.